Hey YouTube, it's your girl Chic from Chic Say What. I am back. It's been a busy day today. This is like the third live that I'm doing today. So much to talk about. So before we get started, if you could like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that jazz. Share the live, the more the merrier. I just really want to hear what people have to say about what's going on in regards to the mandates in various states for vaccinations. So, um, yeah, it's a lot. So that's one thing I want to talk about. And then we need to talk about our boy, the governor, Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo. Has our boy Andrew Cuomo been doing the absolute most? So yes, it's going to be a lot to cover in this live, but we got to talk about it. We have to talk about it. I would imagine there's people, let me start by saying thank you. I've gotten a lot of new subscribers as of late. I do thank you. Welcome. Please continue to like, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when I go live and we can kind of interact as I share my opinion in regards to what's going on out here in these streets. So let's get started. New York vaccinations mandate. So let me start by sharing my screen. Share my screen. Some New York City restaurants pushing back against vaccine mandates. Quote, I just don't think that we're going to be the vaccination police. New York, CBS New York. Starting next week, proof of vaccination will be required in New York City for some indoor activities, including going out to eat, but not all restaurants are on board. I'm sure they're not. Y'all, I feel like a lot of these restaurants, they're going to start losing money again because people aren't going to be going out to restaurants in droves like they once did, because they're feeling like it's almost like a bully tactic to where people may be feeling like, okay, well, you're giving me a or else type situation. Folks don't respond well to the or else type situation. We don't do well with the or else. We gonna buck this. We gonna buck the system when you try to hit us with that. We ain't playing them kind of games. Quote, whether you're vaccinated or not, you are welcome, said Mary Josephine Gennaro Soro, manager at Posteria Rocco's of Bay Ridge. I ain't mad at that quote. I'm not. I feel like it's going to be a lot of people taking on that same energy, or they feel that way right now. Yeah, I mean, people aren't with, the whole idea of being forced to do something that they're not comfortable with doing. This is America, and for the most part, the way we're operated in the present is, people do as they will. And freedom of speech, freedom of choice, all of that. But when it comes to this whole mandate, it's like you throwing that out the window. There's a sign of protest in the window of the restaurant, defiant against Mayor Bill de Blasio's upcoming vaccine mandate. Y'all, it's going to be on and popping. I can see it. And you got, New Yorkers are already be with the, New Yorkers already come with a different kind of energy anyway. Like, I'm from California, and when I first moved to Georgia, New York, I connected my relationships that I formed relationships more quickly with people from New York. I don't know what it is with that energy. And then, you got the California energy, but I developed more relationships with people from New York versus like people who were from the South. So New York, they got that fire. So I already know it's going to be on and popping. And I don't really feel like it's going to be the result that they're looking for, that Mayor de Blasio, Bill de Blasio is looking for by saying, hey, if you don't get this, you're not going to be able to benefit from this. I don't think it's going to go down like that. I don't think that people are going to fall for that. I think, you got plenty of neighboring states, that you can go to. That's my mindset. You got, what is up there? Maryland, Maine, New Jersey, Philadelphia. There's plenty of other places that people can go to get the nightlife if need be. How you do a weekend getaway, and you go up there and enjoy the things that you can't do at home. So I feel like people are going to find a way to make a life without being vaccinated. It reads, we do not discriminate against any customer based on sex, gender, race, creed, age, vaccinate or unvaccinated. Now there's a part. Normally we don't even have this last part after age thrown up in a situation. So now fast forward to 2021, when we talk about discrimination, you got to go on and throw in vaccinated or unvaccinated. That's basically the climate we live in. But as I carry on, all customers who wish to patronize are welcome in our establishment. Quote, end of that quote, new quote. I just do not feel that we're going to be able to sit there and ask customers to show if they've been vaccinated or not. Generosio told CBS 2's Ali Bauman. Like, that's real talk. Like, how awkward is that? Like, when people show up to your restaurant, so is somebody standing at the door saying, can you show me your vaccination card, please? Like, is this what we're doing? So we're not even talking about like, show me your ID to get an alcoholic beverage. We're on some, what, can you show me your vaccination card before we let you into our establishment, before you can go eat your ham and cheese sandwich and your cup of chicken noodle soup? Like, come on, like, really? I cannot. Let's proceed with this article. Starting next week, proof of vaccination will be required citywide for indoor activities such as dining, gyms, and concerts. After a grace period, enforcement will then begin on September 13th. Okay, so are they calling right now the month of September being, the month of August being the grace period? Because if they're saying starting next week, what's the date on this article? This article is dated today, August 12th. So you're saying starting next week, proof of vaccination will be required. So you giving people a roughly 1 month head start to what? Get their life in order to comply with what you're wanting them to conform to? Okay. Quote, I just don't think that we're going to be the vaccination police. That's up to the mayor's office. It's up to the health department to figure out. But it certainly shouldn't be the burden of store owners, bars, gyms to be regulating that. Generoso said. I agree. It's very different. It's a very different scene at Boca Restaurant in the Bronx where free vaccines are on the menu this week. That's crazy. Quote, we're doing this in lieu of all those other dramatic measures that are killing our Latino restaurant businesses, said Aurelia Tavares, executive director of the New York State Latino Bar and Lounge Association. The mandate will apply to both workers and customers and is the first of its kind in the United States. Yeah, I've never heard of that. The way that we defeat Delta is having enough New Yorkers get vaccinated so that it goes away once and for all, said Dr. Ted Long, executive director of New York City Test and Trace. More than 30 restaurants across New York City already required proof of vaccination, including City Winery on Manhattan's West Side. They say most customers are comfortable with the enforcement. All they have to do is present their smartphone with the copy of their vaccination card or their Excelsior pass, or they can bring the actual card with them, said Laura Albers, vice president of marketing for City Winery. A spokesman for City Hall says the mayor will have more information on enforcement training and penalties for restaurants in the coming weeks. That's going to be the interesting part. In the meantime, City Hall is working with the industry on how the logistics of this mandate will all shake out. Interesting. Interesting. So what I've come to learn also as I was researching this, there's other states who've also kind of jumped on board with the whole mandate situation. Let's look at this one, this article. See, can you see my screen? Yeah. San Francisco, New Orleans mandate vaccines for bars, gyms to combat Delta variant. At least 3 major U.S. cities will require proof of vaccination to enter restaurant, gyms, and other indoor venues, aiming to curb a new wave of COVID infections that has prompted public health mandates across the country. San Francisco and New Orleans on Thursday joined New York in mandating proof of vaccination in indoor public spaces. This is clearly a new day. Have any of you ever thought that a day would come where people would be required to be vaccinated? Like, period. You're just required. And if you don't comply, there'll be stiff penalties, or if you don't comply, you can't participate in the regular everyday activities that you have grown accustomed to participating in, because this is America and that's what we do here. I always describe these times as like a never-ending bad movie on Netflix. like come on. It just gets worse and worse. Like a year ago we were here, and then it's like, okay, we were hopeful to see better days. It was kind of like the expectation of, oh, it's going to get better. These vaccines are going to save the day. But are we seeing that? How many of us know people who've gotten it or who have not gotten it, who have wound up in the hospital? Who still got, sick, who still was impacted. So is it really true? Okay, if you get the vaccine, you're going to be all good and you don't have anything to worry about. Is that what any of you are saying? Because that's not what I'm seeing. I live in Georgia. I'm not seeing that here where I live. I live in the metro Atlanta area. I'm not seeing that at all. San Francisco and New Orleans on Thursday joined New York in mandating proof of vaccination in indoor public spaces. The New Orleans order, which goes into effect Monday, also allows people to submit proof that they tested negative for the virus within the past 72 hours. The vaccine mandates in the 3 liberal cities have come as schools in some conservative states are fighting to require masks, going against their Republican governor's order. So, like I said, I live in Georgia, so our governor has not enforced masks on a state level. Basically, my governor Kemp, he's basically leaving it up to, for example, with the school districts, he's leaving it up to the school districts to make the decision on if they want to require masks for students and staff. I think that's great that he's leaving it up to the districts. I happen to be a part of a district that is mandating masks. Yeah, they're mandating masks. So I know, the week that school started there, or I think the day before, because we've been in school now for about a week. We went back August 4th. There was some parents, from what I've heard, boycotting or protesting because they did not want the children to wear masks. So my thing is, pick your battles. I would take a mandate for masks any day over a mandate for a vaccination. At least a mask, it's a mask. It's something you wear. It comes on and off. The vaccination, once you get the vaccination and it's in your system, it is what it is. Like, it's in your system. So however your body reacts to that, it is what it is. And you just have to hope that your body can fight whatever it is. Or let's just say you just hope that whatever that's in the vaccination, it's compatible with your DNA and you don't experience any complications. The board of Houston's public schools was expected to vote Thursday evening to defy a state ban on mask mandates, joining other districts in Texas and Florida requiring mask coverings in classrooms to fight a surge of COVID-19 infections. I know as far as for the state of Georgia, my son's high school was, as of last Friday, was identified as a school that I believe they were identified as having the highest number of cases in schools in Georgia. And it was like over 200 cases. And I was just within 3 days. And that was only at that time, they were staggering the return of the students. So last week, the school was only 9th and 10th graders. 11th and 12th graders did not physically return to class until this past Monday. So within those 3 days, 2 class grades, 2 class levels, however, 9th and 10th, the numbers totaled to over 200. It was close to 300, I believe, with cases for the high school. It's a mess, and I feel like all we can do is make the best decisions, for ourselves, whatever that may be. But I just feel like it should be a personal decision. It should be a personal decision that we should be able to make for ourselves. It shouldn't be something where it's a mandate on it, because, you feel like I should take something. I don't feel like something that has to go in your body should be mandated. Period. Like, I think that when it comes to something like that, adults should be able to make that decision for themselves. And if they have children, they should be able to make that decision for their children. Point blank, period. Like, there shouldn't be nothing else factored into it. And it's evident that those aren't the times that we're living in. As the start of the academic year coincides with a dire new wave of the virus cases, schools have quickly become, become the focal point of the nation's political fight over masking and vaccine mandates. In Virginia, where some school districts had said they would not require masks, Governor Ralph Northam, a Democrat, issued an order on Thursday requiring face coverings in indoor school settings. Florida has threatened to withhold the salaries of school officials who require masks, a move that has escalated tension between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican, and the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden, a Democrat. Wow. Yeah, that's new to me. The whole you ain't gonna get a check if you don't comply. The White House is considering reimbursing Florida school officials if DeSantis, who is widely seen as weighing as a potential for the 2024 challenge for the presidency, follows through on his threat. The Delta variant appears to be flattening the pace of the U.S. economic recovery after a big upswing in the first half of 2021, according to Oxford Economics U.S. Recovery Tracker. It's getting serious. Healthcare stretched thin. I've been hearing about that as far as, where the nurses are getting burnout. Like today, when I went to my dentist appointment, I had a conversation, I was talking with my dentist and he was telling me how right now nurses are making the money that doctors are making because, with this whole pandemic, and it's just these hospitals are being flooded with patients. It's like everyone is just overworked. So, if these nurses are putting in these extra hours, then, you got to come with the money. I one time got into a conversation with the respiratory therapist, and he told me that he's gotten about like 2 pay increases since this whole pandemic because of the demand for his position. So when it comes to the medical field, the money has always been in the medical field, but it's really there now, given that, there's these hospitals are being filled with patients. So, but like I was saying, like I was hearing that the nurses, they're tired. They're working these long shifts, they're burnt out, and they're like, okay, I'm tapped out. Can you blame them? I mean, can you really imagine during these times being a medical worker, and in particular, you're in a hospital who deal with patients, and you're suddenly like flooded with patients coming in and out of the hospital? It's like, and then you still have your family at home. You still have other responsibilities or things that's going on outside of your work like anybody else. So it's like it's almost like deja vu. We're hearing the same stories as we were hearing just a year ago. And the expectation that it was set by our government was that, we were going to be in a different place, especially once the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine was released, and you had your Johnson and Johnson. Like, based off of the projections, like, it wasn't projected for us to be in the position that we are in. And it's just very sad and disheartening. Many of us know people, who didn't survive the virus. Many of us know people who are currently battling the virus. Many of us know people who overcame the virus. Many of us even know people who still have the lingering effects of having the virus. So it's layers to this. It's so many different categories that people fall into. And I think because of that, that's what makes it such a hot topic, because you got people who are on different sides of the fence for various reasons. You got some people who are running out to get it because they seen a loved one get it and they didn't make it, or they barely made it. So they're like, okay, let me go and get it. Then you got some people on the side of the fence that are like, no, I'll pass, because someone that they did know who got it, they still got sick and didn't survive. So the data is there really for both scenarios, being vaccinated and being unvaccinated. Like, it's there for both. And it just comes down to like, what side of the fence are you on? And I heard someone say that statistically, of all the cultural groups, Black people have the lowest percentage of people who have chosen thus far to not take it. I believe they said that percentage was about 27 or 28%. That's the percentage of people who like did take it. So, the rest of the people was like, no, I'll pass. Now, I do know there's talks to rush to slap a FDA approval on the Pfizer vaccination, but I don't know if collectively, at least in our community, or if it's in high numbers, that people are choosing to not be vaccinated because it's not FDA approved. I've heard people say that, but I think as time has gone on, people aren't really necessarily heavily focused on that part. They're more so looking at, okay, there's been time that has passed and we've seen the effects of it. So they're forming their opinions based off of the effects thus far that they've seen. And some of them are like, okay, I'm good with what I've seen. Sure, I'll get it. And then some are like, no, ma'am, or no, sir, I'll pass. So I think because of that, that's where it comes in to where, okay, well, we need to kind of start forcing people to do it, because I believe just collectively, maybe about 50% of Americans have gotten it. So that's still a large number of people who still haven't gotten it. The worst case of the outbreak is concentrated in the South, including Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas, where intensive care units have been stretched to capacity. While floating federal recommendations on masks, Florida have asked Washington to help by sending ventilators. Yes, I know people personally who work in hospitals, and they're saying that's true. Their beds are full. They're seeing half patients who've been vaccinated and half who hasn't. So they've seen, patients who have been vaccinated on ventilators and patients who haven't been vaccinated on ventilators. So it's like, it's not a rhyme or reason. Like, some believe that it's just a matter of your DNA and how, when you're getting vaccinated, your body is going to react to what's in the vaccination. And that's how, you're seeing the different outcomes. Some people have said, hey, I had it, I feel perfectly fine, felt a little soreness. And then some people have been put down for the count, whether, they felt sick for a little while, or, just people have responded and reacted differently. People who I know who share the same mother and father. That's just the thing about it. So it leads me to believe that it does make sense as far as with your blood level, the DNA, because it's like people are just having different reactions. It's like no rhyme or reason for it. The number of daily cases across the country has doubled in the last 2 weeks, according to the Reuters tally, reaching a 6-month peak, while the average number of daily deaths has increased 85% in the last 14 days. That's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. So as we enter into September, I imagine it's going to be heavily in the news as people watch to see how New Yorkers respond or adjust to the changes within their state. Probably starting this weekend. And I think based off of how I think a lot of people around the country and probably even around the world are going to be looking, because as I say, there's always that one you're trying to see like, okay, well, how are things gonna work out with them? I remember when Georgia was in the news a year ago where our governor was like, listen, we're opening up, we're letting people go back out, and everybody was like, oh my. And then next thing you know, these other state, people started following suit until pretty much all the states were like completely open. But I believe, if I can recall, Georgia was like that first one that like bucked the system, like, yo, we going outside today. I don't care what you say. And I just remember that we were just talked about everywhere. I remember getting, text messages from family and friends from back home, which is California. And, because we were on the news heavy, and we opened up and we remained open. And here we are, more than a year later. So I look at it as New York is going to be, as being the same as far as like this trendsetter with a change or with trying to do something different. I know our governor has, publicly spoken out saying that he does not support companies requiring their employees to be vaccinated. However, he hasn't put anything in place to prevent companies from doing that. So I don't know if that's like above him, if he has the right to do that. I guess he would, because if it's taking place in New York, he can, but he hasn't. I know there are some states on the map, it was maybe about 4 states who had already put something in place saying that they just wouldn't ever, wouldn't be able to mandate something like that. So it was just very few states. And then there was also some states who put something in place saying that schools would not be, able to mandate masks. Of course, we know Florida was one of them. Georgia hasn't been a state that kind of has been a standout with bucking the system or going against something from a law level. Our governor, he's quite comfortable with vocalizing, his thoughts and feelings on things. You may have heard or seen him and the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, kind of have some words on Twitter. I know she wanted, when you come to her city, masks and things like that to be mandated and all that. And Governor Kemp was like, ma'am, you need to be worried about the violence going on in the city. Like that's kind of how the energy he gave to her when she put out there, what she was wanting to see in her city. So it's a clear example that our mayor and governor are not on the same page, which we've seen that with New York when it came to, Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo. I remember last year or early on during the pandemic, them being at it, as it pertains to just guidelines, movement, like they weren't on the same page. So I guess it's not abnormal to see your governor and mayor not be on the same page. So if you can't even get them on the same page, my thoughts is like, how do you get the people? How do you get the people to come together when you see the leaders not being on one accord? Like you look for your leaders, to be an example to you. And you're going off of that. And if they're not showing you an example of unity, then, the people aren't going to be sold on the idea of unity. That's how I see it. And So as we segue into Governor Cuomo, there's some other news that's going on in their city, and it's pertaining to some sexual harassment allegations for the Governor Cuomo. So the information that I've gathered, Cuomo accuser, let's see if we can get a picture of the accuser, the latest accuser. Let me try to get a picture of her. I have it on my phone, but let me try to just see if I can bring it up so we can see what she looks like. But she was a aide to him, and she talked about multiple times where he violated her. Let me show you her. Let's get into it. We getting into it tonight. It's a lot going on in the Big Apple. Is that what they call it? The Big Apple. It's a lot going on in the streets of the Big Apple. Okay. Cuomo accuser details groping allegations, says governor is lying. So this is her. It's a picture of her. Brittany Comiso. In the damning report released last week, okay, so this article was posted by CBS News 3 days ago. Excuse me. In the damning report released last week by New York State Attorney General Letitia James, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is accused of sexually harassing 11 women. In an exclusive interview with CBS this morning and the Times Union, one of those women, previously known only as Executive Assistant Number 1, is breaking her silence. So this is her. Brittany Comiso began working as an executive assistant in the governor's office in 2017. Now she is speaking publicly for the first time since filing a criminal complaint against Cuomo last week, just days after the Attorney General's report was released. Quote, "To me, this was a dream job, and it unfortunately turned into a nightmare," end quote. Comiso was not the first woman to come forward with allegations of sexual misconduct against Cuomo, but she is listed first in the Attorney General's report. She believed this is because of the seriousness of her allegations. Quote, "I believe that my story appears first due to the nature of the inappropriate conduct that the governor did to me," end of quote. Quote, "I believe that he groped me, he touched me not only once, but twice." Comiso, now 32, alleges that the governor groped her for the first time on December 31st, 2019. She says she was at the governor's mansion that night to help Cuomo with upcoming state address. According to Comiso, after finishing her draft of the speech, Cuomo suggested the two of them take a selfie together. Quote, "He was to my left, I was on the right. With my right hand, I took the selfie," she said. "I then felt while taking the selfie, his hand go down my back onto my butt, and he started rubbing it, not sliding it, but not, quickly brushing over it, rubbing my butt." Comiso said this made her so nervous that her hands began to shake, making it difficult for her to even take the picture. "I was embarrassed," she said. "Not only embarrassed for what was going on, I was embarrassed that the governor wanted a selfie and I couldn't take it. I was so nervous. I remembered looking at them. And when he said Can I see them? I showed him them and he said, oh, those aren't good. Cuomo then, according to Camiso, suggested the two try again on the couch, a suggestion that she said she accepted because she thought he would no longer be able to touch her rear end if she were sitting down. So we sat down on the couch, and in the photo, I have my arm wrapped around his shoulder, almost as if we were taking a picture with a buddy. And I got a clear photo sitting down, Camiso said. And that is the one that has been blurred out, that has been now released to the public. Wow. Cuomo has denied he ever touched Camiso inappropriately, including when they took a selfie. That's a lot to unpack. Camiso alleges that Cuomo groped her a second time at the governor's mansion in November 2020. She claims that during the encounter, Cuomo hugged her in a sexually aggressive manner. It was then that I said, you know, Governor, you know, my words were, you're going to get us in trouble. And I thought to myself, that probably wasn't the best thing to say, Camiso said. Camiso claims she was afraid a staffer might walk in and get the wrong idea. But that after she said that, Cuomo shut the door so hard to the point where I thought for sure someone downstairs must think if they heard. Let me see what she said. Cuomo shut the door so hard to the point where I thought for sure someone downstairs must think if they heard that, what is going on? It was then that Camiso claims the governor groped her a second time. She quotes, he came back to me. That's when he put his hand up my blouse and cupped my breast over my bra. She said, I exactly remember looking down, seeing his hand, which is a large hand, thinking to myself, oh my God, this is happening. So I had been researching, as I researched the case, I was, listening out and reading on, what people have been thinking about, this story. And I'll share like some of the comments that I came across. Somebody said, the sad part is if she is lying about anything, she could destroy this man's life. Someone also said, when this happened to me as a 14-year-old, I didn't wait 4 years. I knew it was wrong the day of and told right away. I don't understand how women more mature, more powerful stay quiet for so long if they truly felt violated the way I did at a young age. Someone said, when she said, you're going to get us in trouble versus I don't like what you're doing, stop. They said massive eye roll here. So they're feeling like, okay, they didn't find it to be the most fitting response to his actions. You're going to get us in trouble. Like they felt like, okay, that's interesting that that's what she say versus outright stop. Someone said nowadays, as a man, any day, you can be taken down. There was also a commenter who said, great slight cross-examination from the reporter about the selfie. It's so very important. We all know from everyday life that the person whose phone takes the selfie is the one who asked for it. She needed a cover for the picture being taken and had to say it was his suggestion, but it just doesn't fit common sense. She would have possession of the photo and he would not. Why would he ask for a picture he wouldn't be able to see? Notice the slight hesitation, sigh, freeze with eye contact at 1 minute and 48-second mark of the video when she realized how unbelievable her own description seemed. It was a lie, and any expert will tell you it would suggest bigger lies and overall deception to her entire narrative. Wake up, people. We all are for better treatment of women, girls, but telling lies and sanctioning media dogma and hyperbole is incredibly dangerous for our great nation. So I knew that, there was some allegations out there for him, but I hadn't really followed them to know, okay, exactly what had been said to like form an opinion about him or anything, but if it's true, I hope, she gets the justice that she deserves and, he's sent to jail. And, if it's not true, I hope that comes out and, his name can be cleared. So, we don't know. We just got to see how everything unpacks from a legal standpoint. Because, these are serious allegations. And, we've recently saw that he's finally, stepped down, because in the past when there were allegations, he was like, still, I'm not stepping down. But he finally, decided to step down. I know different various levels of government was calling for him, from like local, state level, all the way up to the president, where they were calling for him to step down. So a few days ago, that's what he did. He stepped down. I just hope that everything still continues to go through the legal system. Proper investigation is conducted. Oftentimes we see ladies, they hold off on telling their story like for years, for various reasons. Many of them say, they were afraid, they were embarrassed, but it just seems to be very common where we see a woman that will sit on, like we saw it with Bill Cosby, many women who at one time just started to speak up about something that happened, that they say allegedly happened really as much as probably 20 years ago. Like, not everyone can wrap their mind around the idea of holding on to an assault for so long without informing the proper authorities. But as we see, it happens. We see it all the time. We hear it in the media all the time. It happens. One can only wonder why it happens so often, but it does happen. People have their reasons as to why they chose to not speak up when things happened, or within what one might consider to be a reasonable time to report something. I guess you can say, within days, a week, or even the month. But, we see stories where it goes years being unreported. And then when the woman comes out and say, hey, this happened, to me, I see more often than not, the culture is to believe the woman. Like, if she's saying this happened, you believe her. So it's like, instead of innocent until proven guilty, it's like guilty until proven innocent when we see situations like this. Whether that's right or wrong, that's a whole, basically, according to law, it's innocent until proven guilty. But we often see, even just within the Black community where things happen, a lot of times we see with us, you're guilty until proven innocent. It's in the reverse, whereas we'll see with other cultural groups, it's innocent until proven guilty. So we don't always get that luxury. And I believe that same energy is kind of there when it comes to sexual assault allegations. It's just the way it is. It falls into one of that category of life ain't fair. It's not fair, but what can you do? It is what it is. You just hope and pray that the truth come to the light. And as you wait for that to happen, lives aren't impacted in a way that can be very detrimental. Because somebody going to jail getting time, you can't get those years back. So we often see, you'll see these GoFundMes where a lot of time Black men just got out of jail for a crime that they finally were proven innocent of, but they spent all these years, and the state will throw them a few dollars, what to me equates to a few dollars for the amount of years of their life that has been taken. We see that happen far too many times. I mean, we've seen even that happen sometimes with even women, but you see it more so with our Black men, because more of our Black men are locked up or in the system more so than our Black women. And it's just the unfair law treatment that the unfair treatment when it comes to the law that people of color, in particular Black people, have to endure. It seems like just about once a week or every other week, something pops off that reminds us that we don't live in a country where Black people have equal rights or that we're given fair treatment. It's just the truth of the matter. And we argue it, we talk about it until we're blue in the face, but from a systematic level, we don't really see the change. Things continue to be as they are, which is a hot mess, and which is why you see protesting like every other week pertaining to it. But again, please like, share, subscribe. I want to just get this out there. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when I come on to discuss just topics that are just going on in the world. And this was one that I thought, I should kind of get out there so people would know like what's going on out here. I urge everyone, wherever you live, to learn what your laws are, what are policies that are in place or up for vote to be in place, that could impact you and your family, your children, and all your loved ones. So you need to make yourself aware of what's going on, and not just, go off of whatever someone says. Research things for yourself, find the answers for yourself, because in many situations, the answers that you find for yourself doesn't line up with what somebody told you. It's just, we all see that. So with something as serious as what's going on right now with the vaccination, I urge everyone to do their own research, because when you do your own research, you can stand that much firmer on your square and not budge, because you have a solid opinion, a solid reasoning, a solid stance as to why you're choosing to make the decision that you're choosing for you and your family. But that comes from you seeking out the information. So I ask that you seek out the information. But they say, asking you shall find. So seeking you shall find. Seek out the information, guys. It's out there. And when you find information, share it. Have discussions about it. And that's what I come on here to do, to share and have discussions about the things that are going on in the world and in these YouTube streets. So until the next broadcast, please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. I like to read the comments, see what your thoughts are. And until the next broadcast, peace.